Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Earth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Thank you. If you would, please join me in the most important thing we're going to do today, and that's the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would, remain standing for a minute. I'd like to take a moment of silence. Robert Graves, who served Anderson Township Public Works Department for the last 10 years, yesterday lost his son Bobby, and I would ask that you join us in a moment of silence to recognize this loss to Rob and his family. Thank you. Okay. No presentations or recognitions. Anybody you two would like to recognize while we're here?
We should adopt the agenda first.
Oh, yes. How about that, Mr. Jackson?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Oh, you want to do that? Okay.
Second. Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Okay, now, presentations and recognitions. We have one. Legislative update. We haven't heard from Representative Stoutberg. We don't know if he might be here later or not, so we'll move forward.
Yeah, but I would like to publicly thank him for attending the Ohio Township Association legislative reception. As you were aware, I invited him to that at the last meeting, and he did attend, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. You know you're late. Let's work on that. Okay. At every meeting, we set aside time for individuals who wish to address the board. We ask that you make non-repetitive points as clearly and concisely as possible and limit your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. We also ask that you state your name and address for the record. So if anyone wishes to address the board, please come forward.
Anyone? Anyone at all?
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Do we have any parking
Wait.
spots out there, perhaps? Okay. If no one wishes to come forward, I will close the public forum portion of the meeting and move on. Trustees' comments. Oh, there he is. You're right on time.
You're up.
State Rep. Peter
I
Stoutberg.
apologize.
Thank you.
I was a minute late. Thank you for having me again. And Richard, thank you for the clean roads and the people who work with you. It's been township living. I love it. Always clean and always good. We continue to be busy in Columbus getting things done. On the election front, we had some hotly contested bills yesterday dealing with absentee voting procedures. First of all, I think something we all been looking for a while is getting rid of Golden Week, that time period in which one may go in and register to vote and also vote absentee on the same day, which was always a problem because it does not give the chance of the Board of Elections to check and see the person who's registering is actually who he or she says he is. That's been a long time coming. We've made many runs at that in the past. We finally got it done in a pretty simple bill, actually, and the Senate concurred in some minor tweaks to that all yesterday. We also had something that had to do with mailing out absentee voting applications where we are stopping the practice of having that done sporadically. So it's either going to be all in with an appropriation by the General Assembly or not. So it's not going to be pushed down to the counties, and some counties would have ballots or applications go out and some counties would not, which created an incredibly confusing and uneven process throughout the state. that effect, or that will not take effect for this year, this current year, that's still, whatever the Secretary of State has in mind or in plans will go on. That will kick in for the 2016 election. And the Golden Week will actually kick in for the general election, not for the primary election. 277, I was hoping to have it up this week. That is on the schedule for next week, and hopefully we'll be able to get that out of committee. The JED-Z bill, 238, I believe, that came out of committee. I know that is concerning to a lot of township people. I've not spoken to Heidi directly, but I did talk to Chairman Blair, who told me that the Township Association is neutral. It does not touch JED, from what I understand. It impacts only JED-Zs, the zones, which were apparently subject to particular abuse of cherry picking and circling areas and resulting in tax grabs, which were not the intent of enabling legislation many years ago. So I don't know if that's coming to the floor next week, but we can talk offline tomorrow, whenever, if there's any significant heartburn still with that.
Okay, thank you.
So I will stop taking up time. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Mrs. Earhart thanked you for attending the OTA meetings.
My
right
pleasure.
before you came in. So.
Especially with our newest trustee members up there and
Yeah, there you go.
getting them acclimated.
Yeah.
Questions?
Nice. It was nice meeting with you up there, and thanks for being so hospitable to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, Peter. Okay. I'm not going to give the public forum another shot. Moving on to trustee comments. Alphabetical order by middle initial means you.
Does it?
Yep.
Just a couple of things. I know some people in Anderson Township got the Forest Hills magazine, which looks very familiar to our Insight magazine, and I think that the only thing I was going to say is, this is great. This is the kind of communication that I think is vital in our community. And along those lines, I've had the pleasure of meeting with Dallas, a couple of the board members, to just talk about ways that we can collaborate in the future. I think it's important to explore those ideas and see where they can go. We're all in this together, and so far, those talks have gone well. We'll see what comes out of it. It's very broad at this point, but everyone has been great and open to the idea. So the other thing I want to mention was Dusty Rhodes sent a letter regarding the homestead extension. For those of you who don't know, it's basically legislation. Let's see, it offers homeowners who are 65 and over and who are permanently and totally disabled some relief on their real estate taxes. And the change is that they've added a requirement for new qualifying applicants in 2014. Their Ohio adjusted gross income must not exceed $30,500. However, if you're an existing recipient of this exemption, you will not be affected. Nor will those who were 65 prior to January 1st, 2014, provided they are already on the program or register for it before June 2nd of this year. So for more information, you can go to the Hamilton County Auditor's website. And then finally, Peter mentioned it earlier that a few of us went up to Columbus last week for the Ohio Township Association Conference. It's where all the, many of the townships, I should say, come together and talk about issues that affect townships. And I just want to say that, after being up there and watching Vicki in action, Vicki is a rock star in this state. We are a township that is highly regarded. And, Vicki could, and this goes for a lot of our employees, if not all of them. But I think the message is that, like any good company, the CEO and how the CEO runs that company resonates all the way down the chain. And Vicki goes above and beyond. And it was clearly obvious, kind of walking up there behind her and seeing her in action, that this township is in great hands. So if nothing else, I mean, it was an interesting conference, and just seeing you up there and all the things that you guys are doing is great. So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. It's, the board support, and I've got a staff that makes me look good, so thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Mr. Pappas?
Oh, I just want to thank what Josh said was exactly right up there in Columbus at the OTA. Was being from Anderson, people were like, wow, you're from Anderson Township. I mean, we are well-known and well-respected, and it was very nice. Vicki as well. Everything Josh said was correct, but I'd also like to thank our Public Works for the snow removal. Once again, it's officially gone, but I got to tell you, the comments I've received in my neighborhood and just around town are what a great job you guys did. And I know we've said it before, but thank you for everything you did. It was a tough last couple of weeks, so thank you.
Thank you. All I had to say was that my wife told me to remind me to tell you that she loves those chocolate eggs of yours.
Oh, not mine, but that's all right. I'll take credit for it.
So I'd pass that along. Okay. Fiscal Officer, Ken Dietz. Notice I didn't say crack fiscal officer. Out of deference to
Can you say it? We have financial reports, the same financial reports we had at the last meeting in January are the ones we have. We've been balancing 2013, so the reports for the end of January will not be available for a couple more days. But when they are, we have a fund report, appropriation expense report, and revenue report. So,
Thank you. We have before us 4 sets of meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to adopt any or all of these?
You want me to take that, Josh?
Sure.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes of December 19th, 2013, January 9th, 2014, January 23rd, 2014, and February 6th, 2014, with minor, if any, changes.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Thank you. Law Director, Margaret Comey.
I have no report. Thank you.
Wonderful. We have a new face on our panel here, Allison Hodson, representing our Planning and Zoning Department.
So the plan before you, as well as on the screen tonight, is for the Foxbrook Place subdivision. Our township sidewalk plan requires sidewalks on both sides of the street for any new subdivision, as well as along adjacent road frontages, in this case, Clough Pike. It was determined originally when the plan came in that Clough Pike would not be the greatest place to have a sidewalk and not the ideal location for a pedestrian. So we came up with an alternative arrangement, which the developer agreed to, and that was to install sidewalk along Bruns Lane, connecting into an existing sidewalk. That has already been completed, and this is before us again tonight, as the county engineer has determined that the crosswalk to connect into that existing Bruns Lane sidewalk should be to the west of this intersection rather than the east. With that relocated sidewalk, the developer is now proposing to only have sidewalk on the west side of this new road as opposed to both, with a connecting crosswalk within the development rather than having pedestrians cross adjacent to Clough Pike. So that's back before us today. Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission approved this originally on May 2nd, and then it went back before them on February 6th of this year to look at this. So we are looking for a recommendation from the trustees tonight on this item.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to modify the sidewalk requirements as outlined in staff's memorandum dated February 10th, 2014 for the Foxbrook Place subdivision to allow for off-site sidewalk construction as outlined by staff and consistent with the Anderson Township sidewalk plan.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Might add that, this is not a new concept. We've done this a number of times as a situation applies, and I think it's been very beneficial to the trail system in doing it, so it's great. Thank you, Allison. Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Matt Guy. Thank you. Public Works Department, Richard Shelley.
Good evening, and thank you all for those kind comments. I'll certainly pass along to our staff. I have two items before the board tonight. The first one, of course, is for the Bartles Road sidewalk project. The importance of this project is it coincides and attaches to the Clough Pike project that is about to get underway here very shortly. The coordination of this was one that would take place that allow us to work on Bartles Road and even do some lane closures and some road closures during the time which school will be out over the summer. It's amazing that that window seems to keep getting smaller and smaller every year, that there's no activity at the school. But it would be our goal to install a connecting sidewalk from the Turpin High School down Bartles and connect into the new sidewalk being installed with the Clough Pike project, so that there's connectivity between the two. You have that in front of you.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the bidding for Bartles Road sidewalk project.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. The only other item I had was at the request of one of the board members to give an update on salt. I am taking requests. I would love to know exactly how many more storms there are this year, so I can divide that pile into that number of storms and make sure we never run out. But the truth is, we have probably between 600 and 800 tons of salt remaining. It would be enough to do 2 or 3 significant storms, or several of those nuisance, quarter-inch of chaos, I like to call them, type of storms. Obviously, it's our job not to run out, so we've made every effort to do that. Our public has been very receptive and very cooperative to us, not salting in the flats, letting the sun work the next day, not putting as much as we typically would in the cul-de-sacs. I know the cul-de-sacs came in question during the last couple storms, but with 450 cul-de-sacs, if we are able to turn the salting off in just the cul-de-sacs, it makes a big difference. You know, what we all know about cul-de-sacs is typically they're very flat, and typically they're either downhill or slightly upgrade, but for the most part, you can get out of them without a lot of problem. It was not our intent to treat anyone that lives in a cul-de-sac differently. It was surely just truly a position we were put in by our salt supplies. I ordered salt on January the 10th. We've gotten 5 or 6 loads since then. You know what day of the month it is in February. It would be my best guess at this point, when the river comes up the way it's supposed to over the next 2 weeks, the barges will not be able to deliver up the Mississippi onto the Ohio at all. And I don't think we'll get a replenishment until sometime in April, would be my best guess. So what you see there in the dome, with my sad face in the dome, needs to make us last through the winter. It will be used on the hills and the priority spots. If there's any ice that's in question, obviously we will be using it. Anything of snow in nature, we may let it sit a little longer and then push it off with the plows, because that works better. So, but I appreciate the public, their understanding. It's not a matter of finances, and it's not a matter of management. It's a matter of there's no supply to be had. So, but, you know, this storm is one that took a toll on a lot of us, and I appreciate all the help. Even the community pitched in, even with the mailmen who had to deliver mail and couldn't get the mailboxes. Typically, they do not have to dismount their vehicle to deliver to your box. They did under these conditions. The trash men who had to dig trash cans out of piles that were sideways and those type of things. So it was just it was a community effort. No one person could take credit for the amount of work that we did. And I appreciate our residents, the vendors that we use, the contractors, the people that use our streets on a daily basis, and their understanding of we're running out of places to put it and we don't have the salt to burn it off. That's all I have, if you have any comments.
No, you did a great job.
Yeah, thanks, Richard.
The issue is not how good a job you do, but rather how good a job you do compared to everyone else. because when we get into these trying times, everybody has the same problems, all the communities, but that's what puts us head and shoulders, and people see that. They understand that you're going to have times when you can't be perfect,
Right.
but then they drive into the city of Cincinnati and they think, wow.
Well, we use the same salt and the same trucks that everyone else uses. So the difference has to be our process and our people. And hats off to our people, our staff that run those plows, all the way up to you guys who support us and get us the equipment and the materials we need to do our job.
So 2.5 snows and then that's it, we go home.
If you'll give me a number, I'll divide it by that and we'll be good to go. But I can save 2 5-gallon buckets, put it in the quarter, and that way we never run out. I guess
I was
would
going to
be-
go over and ask all the neighbors to put a little cup of salt and donate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Fire and Rescue Department, Chief Mark Ober.
Good evening. The first item on the agenda to address is our EMS billing contract. Each year, we look at the statistics from the prior year, and we did so this year and would like to enter into a contract extension with our current billing company at a reduced rate of what we have to pay for their services from 5.5 to 5%. So in front of you, unless you have any other questions, there should be a motion to move forward with that.
Mark, I noticed that we are down in 2013, and that's because there were some delays.
Yes, in September, we went to the tablets, walked away from paper, and we're actually using electronic. And we had some issues with that, and we are recovering that, which will soon to surface. The numbers will go back into, for our data, 2013, but we'll receive the funds in 2014.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We need a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion to authorize the Township Administrator to enter into a contract with Med 3000 Incorporated to be effective on March 1st, 2014, and to expire February 28th, 2017, as presented by Chief Ober.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Okay, the next item, I've been asked to just update the board and the community. First, I'd like to throw a disclaimer out. I'm not working for any weather department. I don't have any inside tracks. I don't assist Richard with anything he does with the salt and everything, except I think he's caused a lot of this by pushing it off to the side. But what we're concerned about, and we're just going to pass on some general information, is that we anticipate flooding to occur. We do have a storm supposed to arrive sometime tonight. It's probably going to alter some of those facts that are being tossed around. And as of right now, NOAA is saying that the Ohio River will crest at 48.2 feet on Tuesday. That'll flood a couple of our roadways. We do deal with this every year. And also tomorrow afternoon, the Little Miami will crest, which doesn't affect us a great deal, but it'll be 11 feet over flood stage. And that's usually a statistic that comes out of Milford, but we watch what goes on, obviously, in the northern part of the township. And with that said, we were able to add recently to our website one of the items that's available that FEMA has provided is Floods Ready document to help residents prepare about anything that could occur if floods occur to you. And it's on there. It's a pretty nice document. Also, one of the things that most people don't like to deal with is backup related to the sewer problem. Along the lines of, we put that on our website as well. You can contact MSD if you're having any of those problems. The last thing we want to talk about that surfaced before we could get it on the website is a new document, home use devices. And we'll soon put that on. And what that is to help you handle any power outages in medical devices that require electricity. And it's on there. Thank you. The reason this is interesting, just to drop back and bring that up, when we lose power in the area, one of the things that affects our resources is people who are on oxygen generators and things of this sort. This helps them through that, helps us with the information. On December 6th, we were hit with a power outage in the tri-state area that affected 7,500 residents. They were all on Anderson, south of Beachmont Avenue. So we received the fire alarm calls, the power starts coming back on, and also it's a strain and drain on those people who require electricity for these devices. So we just received that information and we're sharing that with the public. And if they have any questions, they can call us and we'll help them with it. But, so that's all I have. Unless there's any other questions?
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Township Administration, Vicki Earhart, Steve Severs, Suzanne Parker, and a cast of 1,000.
Good evening. All three of us will be before the board this evening. I'm going to start off with a couple of items. First is the Sunshine Law certification training. The Ohio Revised Code requires that elected officials take a certain amount of training regarding the Sunshine Laws during each of their terms of office. There is also a provision that allows for the board and for Mr. Dietz to appoint a designee, a staff person. Since staff are the ones that are typically dealing with public records requests on a day-to-day basis, the previous boards have always appointed designees to attend this training. We've had several staff members who have been involved in this training in the past, and some new ones who are interested in participating to represent the board. So there is a motion before you for your consideration to appoint such designees.
Do we have a motion?
Yes. Motion moved to appoint Betty Cowan, Molly Moorfield, Nancy Downs, and Becky Campbell as the designees in order to attend the Sunshine Law certification training provided by the Ohio Attorney General's Office and as required by Ohio Revised Code 149.43E1 on behalf of trustees Russell L. Jackson, Jr., Joshua S. Girth, Andrew S. Pappas, and Fiscal Officer Kenneth G. Dietz.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is a topic that we bring before the board every year. It's our membership in the Center for Local Government. The Center for Local Government is one of the first organizations in the state of Ohio that work toward collaboration among different entities. It was formed in the 1990, and Anderson Township was there at the inception. It currently consists of 52 governments, including 12 villages, 24 cities, 14 townships, 1 joint fire district, and also Hamilton County. The organization works together. We do things called spot surveys, which are essentially if this board or staff have a question related to a particular service, they provide a mechanism for sending that question out to all of the member jurisdictions to see how others do it so we can learn from best practices. They also provide various types of training. And we also participate as a member of their benefits pool to obtain reduced health insurance rates for our employees. Recently, they have initiated a leadership academy, which helps middle managers and other staff members to learn and to grow in their roles, and also to prepare them for succession planning. We are fortunate in that Mark Magna, our facilities manager, applied for this position. He was accepted as one of 15 individuals who will be participating in the program. He will attend 7 different classes over the course of 7 months. Those classes will be taught by local government professionals, also professors from the University of or Xavier University, Northern Kentucky University. There are also private sector experts who will come in and work with these individuals. They'll learn everything about local government 101 to leadership styles to ethics, budgeting, finance principles, human resource management, how to build effective relationships, and various other topics. So we are very pleased that Mark was accepted into this. It was a competitive process, and we look forward to his participation. The motion that we have before the board this evening would continue our relationship with the Center for Local Government by authorizing our membership in that organization for this coming year.
I'll make a motion to authorize renewal of the township's membership in the Center for Local Government for 2014 at an annual rate of $3,825.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Parker has the next two items.
The first item I have for the board is to request consideration for the renewal of our property and casualty insurance with the OTARMA plan. And for those of you who have been on the board for a while, you'll know that that stands for the Ohio Township Association Risk Management Authority. And that's simply a nonprofit consortium of Ohio townships that group together to purchase insurance to cover our property and liability, our buildings, our vehicles, pretty much everything the township owns. We have been with OTARMA for a number of years and have always received excellent service, claims management, and payment for claims very quickly. We've been very happy with them over the years. This year, the increase was very modest for our premium, a total of $868 increase. I hope that later in the spring, we'll be able to see a refund. Because OTARMA is a nonprofit entity, when the overall fund does well, they're able to distribute those extra earnings back to the member townships. And we've benefited from that several times over the years. Let's see, back in 2009, we received up to $23,000, almost 24. So I don't know if this year's will be that high, but hopefully in March, April, I'll be able to find out if we're going to receive a refund, as we have in the past. So, unless the board has any questions or would like me to elaborate on anything more, you have a motion before you that would authorize me to renew that coverage.
Question?
I would just, you have a question?
No.
I would just point out that the net to us, if we were not to get a CRF credit, would reflect an 8% increase in our cost for this coverage. And while, this time we go in with the idea that we expect something, we're going to have to take, if that happens again next year, we're going to have to take a much harder look at staying in this program.
Sure, yes.
8% is a little steep,
Yeah.
even when you're in the government. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to authorize the Assistant Township Administrator for HR to renew the township's property and casualty insurance coverage with the Ohio Township Authority Risk Management Authority effective February 23rd, 2014.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. My next item is just to quickly update the board on our electricity aggregation program. As of this morning, Duke tells me we have just a little over 700 enrollees in our plan, which is a very good rate of increase. Just 2 weeks ago, we had about 250 enrollments. So it's picking up speed, and that will probably peak in a few weeks, and then we'll see that number start to decline, but we'll still have a healthy number of enrollments, and therefore we can feel good about the number of residents who've been able to take advantage of this program and save money on their electricity costs. I have an appointment to speak with Duke tomorrow about their next pricing package offer. That will go up sometime over the weekend on Monday. So we're going to talk tomorrow about what that is. I can't guarantee what the numbers will be because they make these adjustments every 6 to 8 weeks according to the market, what they're paying for electricity. But I have every expectation that the offers in that package will be better than what an individual could go out and get on their own from Duke or any other supplier, because that was the arrangement we had with them, that they would always beat what an individual could go and contract on their own. So I'll be happy to update the board once I know what that offer is. And if you have any other questions or anything you'd like me to look into, I'd be happy to do so.
The the Duke folks did send out a letter, but there were a lot of us, I, in fact, never received mine. I had already enrolled, but had never received it. And that was a little disappointing because half the people don't read it anyway. They get a letter from Duke, and it's not a bill, they pitch it. So we need to get this message out to people how to get online if they have access to a computer, because online it'll show exactly what you're currently paying and what the new rate is. It's a pretty simple process, but we did get a call from the one, or a note from the one person that indicated that he was paying a rate that was let's say, well below market value, and I would hope that you contact that person back and
I put him
clarify that.
in connection directly with Duke, because I honestly did not want to try to explain to him the market rates for electricity. I thought Duke is much better equipped to do that. And our contact person who helped us set up the aggregation program personally spoke with that gentleman. So I think there was some misunderstanding on that pricing. I can also tell you I took a call from a gentleman today who told me that he doesn't do computers or have any involvement in that. So I was able to give him the customer service number, and he was able then to call them directly. They can call up his account and see exactly what rate he is paying, what he has historically paid, and help him compare to see if he could save any money. And I actually did have a resident stop by the building last week and let me know that she spoke with the customer service representative, who was very friendly and helpful and just couldn't have been nicer. So she had some very good things to say about her experience with them.
Good. We did have a few people disappointed that they received the Anderson Insights on the very day that was the expiration date of the previous package, and they got a little concerned about it. So.
Yes, and sometimes if you don't make it all the way through the article, it would be easy to miss that very last sentence that talked about this will be a continual offer. So the people I've spoken with about that were very pleased to learn that it wasn't just a one-time deal.
I wish everyone read every word, every document that comes out of here, but they don't. So we have to keep.
It can be easy to miss.
Repeating it.
Yes.
I don't. That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Savers will present the next item regarding Clough Pike.
At the board's request, I know there were some questions that came about Clough Pike, and certainly the article that was in the Journal yesterday, and Lisa, thank you, about the project. Just as an overview, we do have some information that we'll be continuing to update this on our website, the Clough Pike Improvement Project Update. If you go to that site, we have a 5 or 6 slide PowerPoint just as an overview to the project for those that are not familiar. I think we're all fully aware here, but we forget that there are folks that haven't been following this for the several years we've been working on it. But outlines the process, some of the components of the project that are involved with that, and also give some information about the time frame that's involved. Construction mobilization began this week. Once the snow fully melts in that area, they'll be able to get in there and begin working on some of the stormwater improvements, which will come first. That will lead up to the closure of Clough Pike, which will be the first week of April, last week of March, during the Forest Hills Spring Break Week, which is fortunately the spring break at McNicholas, but it's not at Guardian Angels. Hopefully we'll be able to work around that. We're also putting into place some plans for off-duty details. We've been working with the Sheriff's Department for some of the detail routes so that we can accommodate traffic in that regard and be fully prepared for that week, which will be the main point of traffic backups, although there will be traffic maintained throughout the project. We are still on schedule for completion late summer, which will be probably July into early August, hopefully before school would resume with the project. And again, keeping in mind this was supposed to start in November with the completion date in July, they're just compressing the schedule, so it's actually a benefit to us, particularly with the weather that we've had over this winter. The other thing that's on the website for those that are really interested on the update is we do have a copy of some of the plans from the project. It's a 168-page document, but what we pulled out is the 11 or so pages for folks to go in and look at what is going on, and we can certainly be available to answer more questions. But again, that project will begin in earnest probably next week, and we'll certainly be keeping the board and the public updated and using our website to do so. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
The last item we have for the board is arising from executive session discussions. As the board is aware, the negotiations have been underway with our fire and rescue department union. I would like to personally commend Ms. Parker, Chief Ober, Assistant Chief Tom Reamer, and especially the firefighters' professional union. They have been excellent to work with. They have recognized some of the situations that we have been dealing with where we're trying to keep the budget flat, we're trying to make reductions where we can, and not only the union leadership, consisting of Bill Tillett and Ken Lovins and several others, but the union members approved the contract that is before the board for consideration, and I just feel that we've had a really good negotiation this year for the first time in a long time. Everybody has come together and worked through this for the benefit of the township and the residents. So there is a motion before you for your consideration.
Do we have a motion?
There is.
Yes, I move to authorize the Township Administrator to sign the 2014-2016 Anderson Township Fire and Rescue Collective Bargaining Agreement. This contract will be retroactively effective on January 1st, 2014.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you,
Good job
that's
for
all we
doing
have.
that, guys. Thank you.
Yes, thank
All
you.
of you. With that, we do have some special guests in the audience here. So if anyone has any questions, anybody have any questions? They probably want to know about those chocolate eggs.
They're not mine.
I have a question about what you're what action you're taking, well, what action you would plan to take on the ash trees in Anderson Township. The ash borer has been going through, well, Ohio for 7 years now and destroying a lot of, well, most of the ash trees. And ash trees do not weather well, and they are being especially affected, the dead ones, during now because they keep getting frozen and unfrozen and frozen, and that just destroys them, and they're very susceptible to falling down and crushing power lines or houses and cars and blocking roads. And I think that, well, that's obviously not a very good thing. And I just want to know what action you were planning to take to, like, show make people be aware of the problem, so that way they know that, oh, I have an ash tree right next to my house. I think that's probably bad because they should probably get it checked out, because if it's dead and it were to fall on their house, that could cost them much more money than it would just to get it cut down in the first place. And they're very easy to identify if an ash tree has an ash borer. It's just a little D hole that would be all over the tree, and that would show, well, or if they're obviously dead. Anyway, so I was wondering what action you would plan on taking in that matter.
You want to tell us your name?
Xander Miller. My address is 3962 Randolph Lane.
You obviously know more about the topic, I think, than most of us, that's for sure. Anyone like to, Richard? He's our resident expert on it.
I can take that question from Mr. Miller. Good question. Over the last 7 years, we have been working on a three-pronged attack. First, it was to identify where our ash trees were located, create an inventory of all of our township trees, then devise a plan for both maintenance on ones that needed to be maintained and removal for those that needed to be removed. For the last 5 years, we have removed several hundred ash trees out of the right-of-way. As you may be aware, our ability as a government to go on private property is very limited, but we are able to work within trees that are on property that the township owns, or property that is trees that are within the right-of-way. So we have identified those. The majority of those that were in hazardous condition have been removed. I suspect that most of those, or all of those, if they're not dead yet, they will be. It is a death sentence for the tree. and unfortunately, we have done all we can at this point, other than to let it run its course. The good news is it appears to be contained. We know how many we have. We have a plan for removal and maintenance. And then, of course, the follow-up, the part 3 of that, Mr. Miller, was to establish a replanting plan. And we have been working on that with our Planning and Zoning Department and our tree committee. We have a Anderson Tree Committee, which you're welcome to show up to at any time and participate in that process. But as you're aware, or you may not be aware, we have been awarded Tree City USA once again for the 3rd or 4th year in a row. And so we take our trees very seriously, and we try to take that approach. So our approach now is to plant as many as we can. And the 2 things we've learned from the emerald ash borer is plant different variety and don't plant them all in a row, because if something kills them, they all die in a row. And so we stagger our varieties and we stagger our rows. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, but since you cannot reach those private properties, maybe you could possibly raise some awareness to the owners of those private properties.
Thank you, good segue. We have a couple different locations that Mr. Seaver has pulled up where we have identified that either through our Anderson Insights. Is it also available on our website, Mr. Seavers?
Yes, this is the Insights, the most recent edition that came out last week. This actually talks to the Asian longhorn beetle, but prior editions have talked about the emerald ash borer. These are available on our website as information pieces that are sent to every home. And then we also have information that Mr. Shelley talked about on the committee part of our website, the Street Tree Committee, which has some information as well in this area. And our Street Tree Committee is probably one of our more active committees. Some of those members have, in fact, they'll be offering a presentation at our next meeting here in March, giving us an update on the status of many of the things that Mr. Shelley talked about. So we'll utilize the cable television, which we've done in the past, our newsletter, ways of trying to reach folks individually about what they can do on their home and on their properties.
Mr. Miller is correct, and the last thing we would point out to our residents, the longhorn Asian beetle leaves a round exit hole, smaller than a dime. The emerald ash borer leaves a D-shaped hole. It'll literally look like a D. There'll be a flat side to the hole, and that's the distinct difference in those 2 destructive pests.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
Anyone else? Step right up there. You sure? No? Okay. Well, in that case, I'd let you know that our next regular monthly board meeting is scheduled for March 20, 2014 at 6 p.m. If you've got any questions, call 688-8400. And with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Hey, thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thanks, everyone.